Glargan 7, a world of endless blue where colossal coral cities pulsed with bioluminescent life. Here lived the Glar, a species as structured as the currents that flowed through their veins. Imagine militaristic bipedal fish with an obsession for order. That's a Glar. Every aspect of Glar society was governed by the Great Current, an ancient inflexible code of conduct. Every sunrise, every feeding cycle, every strategic maneuver was dictated with unwavering precision. Deviation was not just frowned upon, it was a system error. The Glar Collective was a force to be reckoned with, their vast underwater fleets, patrolling the intergalactic waterways, enforcing their brand of aquatic order. Their technology was as streamlined and efficient as their social structure, designed for one purpose: maintaining the Great Current. And maintaining meant conquering. At the heart of this intricate system was Commander Tarla, a name synonymous with discipline, precision, and an almost pathological adherence to regulations. Tarla was the embodiment of the Glar ideal. Her scales were always perfectly aligned, her movements precise, and her pronouncements delivered with the force of a tidal wave. Tarla rose through the ranks not through brilliance, but through absolute, unwavering obedience. She didn't question the Great Current, she was the Great Current, or at least she desperately tried to be. Any disruption to the flow, any hint of chaos, sent ripples of anxiety through her meticulously organized being. Her office on Glargan 7 was a testament to her order. Every datapad was precisely aligned, every hydration tank filled to the regulation level. Even the faint hum of the life support system seemed to sync with the rhythm of her highly regulated heart. It was in this perfectly calibrated environment that Tarla received the report that would disrupt everything: a prisoner of war. A human. Designation: Subject 42. And their arrival, Tarla suspected, would be anything but orderly. The very notion of dealing with an alien species, one known for its chaotic tendencies and unpredictable behavior, sent a shiver down her perfectly rigid spine. This was not going to be in the manual. And then she arrived. Subject 42, or as her manifest rather unhelpfully stated, Jane Doe. The transport ship docked with a muted thud, disturbing the otherwise serene hum of the Glar military installation. The door hissed open, revealing a figure that seemed utterly out of place amidst the sleek aquatic architecture. Jane Doe stepped out, a human female, average height, dressed in what appeared to be, well, Commander Tarla wasn't entirely sure what it was. Fabric, certainly, loosely arranged. The Glar equivalent of a raised eyebrow twitched involuntarily. Hi, Jane said, her voice echoing slightly in the sterile environment. So this is it? Glargan whatever. Nice coral. Very blue. She punctuated the greeting with a casual shrug, as if she just arrived at a particularly damp bus stop. Tarla, standing rigidly at attention with two of her most stoic guards, felt a surge of something akin to discomfort. This was not how prisoners of war were supposed to act. Where was the fear? The supplication? The weeping pleas for mercy? This human was treating the entire situation like a mildly inconvenient vacation. Subject 42, Tarla announced, her voice amplified by her vocal modulator to sound even more imposing. You are to be processed according to the Great Current. Any deviation from protocol will be met with consequences. Jane blinked. Right, gotcha. Great Current protocol consequences. Sounds fun. She glanced around, seemingly unfazed by the armed guards or the imposing figure of Commander Tarla. So consequences like extra paperwork? 'Cause I hate paperwork. Tarla's gills fluttered slightly, a sign of deep consternation. Paperwork? This human clearly had no concept of the gravity of her situation. Consequences are significant, she managed, struggling to maintain her composure. Now follow me. We shall begin with the mandatory acclimation procedures. As Tarla turned to lead Jane through the labyrinthine corridors of the base, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was the one being led. Jane's eyes darted around with undisguised curiosity, taking in every detail with a disconcerting lack of reverence. It was like bringing a cat into a temple. The cultural mismatch was immediately apparent. Tarla gestured towards a hydration station, a sleek dispenser of nutrient-rich water. "You will replenish your fluids here," she stated. Jane stared at the dispenser, then back at Tarla. "You mean drink? Like, from that thing? Is there, like, a straw or something, or do I just slurp?" The horror on Tarla's face was almost comical, if the situation weren't so deeply unsettling. "Slurp? This is a highly calibrated hydration system. You will ingest the fluids in a dignified and efficient manner." Jane, suppressing a grin, shrugged. "Again, dignified slurping it is then." She approached the hydration station with a mischievous glint in her eye. This was going to be a long and undoubtedly chaotic assignment for Commander Tarla. The acclimation procedures, as it turned out, were less about acclimation and more about Tarla attempting to maintain some semblance of control. The first incident involved the Glar communication orbs. These smooth, bioluminescent spheres were integral to their network, transmitting vital information through subtle shifts in color and frequency. Jane, however, seemed to regard it as a fancy stress ball. During a briefing, while Tarla was explaining a complex strategic maneuver, Jane began idly bouncing the orb. It flashed erratically, disrupting the entire communication network and causing a squadron of patrol ships to nearly collide. "Oops," Jane said, with entirely too much cheer. "Butterfingers. Sorry about that. Is it supposed to do that rave thing? 'Cause that's kinda cool." Tarla's vocal modulator nearly short-circuited. "That rave thing, as you so eloquently put. It is a complete systems failure. These orbs are not toys." Jane, looking genuinely contrite, offered the orb back to Tarla. Okay, I get it. Important glowy ball, no bouncing, but like, what are you supposed to do with it? Just hold it? That seems kind of boring." The social rituals proved equally disastrous. The Glar, being aquatic, had a complex system of synchronized swimming displays that signified respect, allegiance, and general good vibes. It was an art form honed over millennia. Tarla, in an attempt to integrate Jane, invited her to observe a performance. Jane watched with polite interest for about 5 minutes before blurting out, "So is this like your version of synchronized swimming? 'Cause I gotta say, the costumes could use some work. And the music? A little heavy on the gurgling." A ripple of offended murmurs spread through the assembled Glar. Tarla, mortified, hissed, "This is a sacred tradition. It is not meant to be critiqued like some terrestrial water ballet." "Hey, I'm just saying," Jane replied, unfazed. "A little glitter never hurt anyone, and maybe some, I don't know, Abba." Perhaps the most disruptive incident occurred during a military exercise. The Glar were practicing their signature maneuver, the Whirlpool of Wrath, a coordinated attack that created a vortex powerful enough to disable enemy ships. It required absolute precision and timing. Jane, observing from the sidelines, suddenly yelled, "Hey, can you guys do the wave? Like, all together? That would be so cool." The Glar, momentarily distracted, faltered. The Whirlpool of Wrath dissolved into a confused mess of swirling bodies, resulting in several bruised fins and a very disgruntled training officer. Tarla, her patience wearing thinner than a Glargon 7 seaweed cracker, finally snapped. Subject 42. Your unconventional behavior is disrupting the very fabric of Glar society. Do you not understand the importance of order and discipline? Jane looked at Tarla with a disarming earnestness. Look, I get it. You guys are all about the rules. But honestly, relax a little. Life's too short to be so rigid. Besides, she added with a wink, chaos is way more fun. Tarla could only stare, completely speechless as the human continued to wreak havoc on her perfectly ordered world, one awkward moment at a time. The Glar, however, were not easily deterred. They believed in the power of technology, the supremacy of their military might. And so, they decided to showcase their ultimate weapon, the pinnacle of Glar ingenuity, the Aquatic Annihilator. Tarla led Jane through a series of sterile corridors, the air thick with anticipation. Finally, they arrived at a massive chamber. The scale of the room was immense, designed to house something truly extraordinary. And there it was. The Aquatic Annihilator dominated the space. It was a colossal structure of polished chrome and pulsating conduits easily the size of a small spacecraft. Intricate networks of pipes and glowing energy cells snaked across its surface. The device hummed with barely contained power. To the Glar, it was a masterpiece of engineering, a symbol of their dominance. "Behold," Tarla announced, her voice filled with reverence. "The Aquatic Annihilator, the ultimate deterrent. A weapon capable of rendering entire planets uninhabitable." She paused, allowing the gravity of her statement to sink in. "With this, we ensure the continued security of the Glar collective." Jane stared at the device, her expression unreadable. Tarla waited for a gasp of awe, a sign of fear, anything that would indicate the human understood the sheer destructive potential before her. But it never came. "Huh," Jane finally said, her tone remarkably casual. "That's, big. What does it do exactly? Besides the whole uninhabitable thing, I mean." She circled the device, peering at the various components with a detached curiosity like she was inspecting a slightly oversized washing machine. Tarla was taken aback by the human's blasé attitude. It annihilates. It generates a concentrated wave of sonic energy amplified by hydromagnetic resonance that disrupts the very molecular structure of matter. It can vaporize entire continents." Jane nodded slowly. Right. Vaporizing. Got it, so like a really loud hairdryer?" Tarla's eye twitched. This was not the reaction she had anticipated. Not at all. "It is nothing like a hairdryer," Tarla retorted, struggling to maintain her composure. "It is a sophisticated instrument of unparalleled destructive capability. It represents the culmination of centuries of Glar scientific advancement." Jane stifled a yawn. This was going to be a long day. Days turned into weeks, and Jane, much to Tarla's increasing dismay, seemed to have taken up permanent residence beside the Aquatic Annihilator. Armed with what appeared to be scavenged tools and a complete disregard for Glar safety protocols, she began her modifications. Tarla watched with a mixture of fascination and horror as Jane tinkered with the Annihilator's delicate systems. She'd remove panels, poke at wires, and occasionally weld things together with a device that sparked and sputtered alarmingly. The Glar technicians assigned to monitor Jane could only watch in silent, fin-flapping anxiety. "What exactly are you doing, Subject 42? Tarla demanded one day, her patience wearing thinner than a plankton wafer. Jane, covered in grease-like lubricant, looked up from her work with a grin. "Improving it, obviously," she replied, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "It's got good bones, this thing, but the interface is clunky. And the power coupling? Don't even get me started." Tarla stared at the array of disconnected wires and sparking electrodes. "Improving it? You are disassembling a weapon of unimaginable power. You are jeopardizing the security of the entire Glar collective." Jane shrugged, then went back to fiddling with a large, wrench-like object. "Relax, Tarla," she said without looking up. "I know what I'm doing, mostly. Besides, a weapon is only as good as its user, right? And this thing, it's just begging for a little finesse." Finesse? The word sounded utterly absurd in the context of planetary annihilation. The modifications themselves were baffling. Jane replaced intricate energy regulators with what looked like scavenged plumbing parts. She rerouted coolant lines into strange, looping patterns. She even, on one memorable occasion, attached a rubber duct to the main power conduit with duct tape. The Glar technicians, observing from a safe distance, exchanged worried glances. Their complex algorithms and simulations predicted catastrophic system failures, massive energy surges, and potential, well, unpleasantness. They tried to voice their concerns to Tarla, but she waved them off, her frustration growing with each passing day. Tarla, despite her training and unwavering devotion to the Glar collective, found herself increasingly confused. Was this human truly trying to improve the Annihilator? Or was this some elaborate form of sabotage? Was she dismantling the weapon piece by piece? The only thing Tarla knew for certain was that Jane's actions were unsettling. The Council of Elders, observing remotely, began to express their own anxieties. They demanded answers, assurances, and, most of all, a demonstration of the improved Aquatic Annihilator. Tarla, caught between the Council's demands and Jane's unpredictable behavior, felt like she was trapped in a rapidly shrinking kelp forest. Subject 42, Tarla said, her voice strained. The Council requires a demonstration. They wish to see the enhancements you have made to the Aquatic Annihilator. Jane paused, wiping her hands on a rag that looked suspiciously like one of Tarla's ceremonial cloths. A demonstration, huh? Sure, no problem, Jane said with a disconcerting grin. Just give me a few more tweaks and we'll be ready to rock and roll. Tarla closed her eyes, bracing herself for whatever chaos was about to unfold. She had a sinking feeling that rock and roll was not a phrase that boded well for the Glar collective. The day of the demonstration arrived with an atmosphere thicker than Glargon 7's primordial soup. The Council of Elders, their bioluminescent eyes gleaming with anticipation, observed from their remote chambers. Commander Tarla, her gills twitching nervously, stood beside Jane in the Aquatic Annihilator's chamber. A designated target, a rogue asteroid deemed a threat to Glar shipping lanes, floated harmlessly in the distance. Jane, unfazed by the gravity of the situation, gave the Annihilator a final pat. "All right, folks," she announced, her voice echoing through the chamber. "Let's see what this baby can do." She flipped a series of switches, heedless of the complex sequence ingrained in every Glar technician's memory. Dials spun, lights flickered, and the Annihilator hummed with, well, a decidedly different kind of energy than it usually did. Tarla braced herself for the earth-shattering blast, the unleashing of unimaginable aquatic power. She envisioned the asteroid vaporizing, disintegrating into cosmic dust, a testament to Glar might. The Glar collective waited with bated gills. Instead, a low, whirring sound filled the chamber. Then, with a gentle plunk, a single bubble emerged from the Annihilator's nozzle. It floated serenely through the air, catching the light, shimmering with iridescent colors. The assembled Glar stared in stunned silence. Then came another bubble and another and another. Soon, a veritable torrent of bubbles erupted from the Annihilator, filling the chamber with a swirling, iridescent cloud. The asteroid, still blissfully unaware, remained untouched. The air filled with the gentle popping sounds of bursting bubbles. The Glar were horrified, utterly, completely horrified. The Council of Elders sputtered with indignation. Technicians scrambled for their control panels, frantically trying to shut down the device, but it was no use. The Aquatic Annihilator, once the pride of the Glar fleet, was now a bubble-blowing machine of epic proportions. Tarla watched, her mandibles agape, as Jane stood amidst the swirling chaos of bubbles, a wide grin on her face. "Ta-da!" Jane exclaimed as another cascade of bubbles poured forth. The scene was one of utter absurdity, a weapon of mass destruction, transformed into a child's plaything, the ultimate symbol of Glar military might, reduced to a source of frivolous, harmless entertainment. The asteroid still floated in space as the ultimate testament to this humiliation. Panic erupted among the observers. Some fainted, others started to scream and wave their appendages. The command deck devolved into chaos. The horror and the shame was too much to bear. Tarla was the only one present to notice that Jane was now giggling. She looked at Tarla and winked before setting the machine to produce even more bubbles than before. It was truly a sight to behold. Jane surveyed the swirling chaos of iridescent spheres, her expression a mix of amusement and, well, perhaps a touch of pride. She turned to the utterly dumbfounded Commander Tarla, the bubble solution gently coating her normally pristine uniform. "So," she began, her voice carrying over the soft pop-pop of the bubbles, "you guys kinda missed the point of this thing, huh?" Tarla, still struggling to process the sheer absurdity of the situation, managed a weak gurgle. Missed the point? It was designed to annihilate, she sputtered, gesturing weakly at the still intact asteroid visible on the main screen. Ultimate, aquatic destruction. Jane chuckled, shaking her head. Nope, not even close. See, I did a little digging, and turns out, this weapon of ultimate destruction wasn't a weapon at all. She paused for effect, allowing a particularly large bubble to drift lazily past Tarla's face. It's a bubble maker. A what now? Tarla thought. Her brain was starting to short-circuit. Yeah, Jane confirmed, as if she had read Tarla's thoughts. A bubble maker. A really, really big industrial-strength bubble maker. She gestured around at the scene of bubbly pandemonium. I mean, look at it. It's pretty obvious, isn't it? The Glar officers around them started to stir, blinking their multiple eyes in confusion. One of them dared to ask, a bubble maker? For what purpose? Jane explained, the smile never leaving her face. It's for children's parties, on a water world, obviously. You know, for birthdays, festivals, just general fun. She shrugged. Apparently, the original designers got really into bubble technology. It was supposed to create endless streams of joy for toddlers. A stunned silence fell over the command deck, broken only by the gentle popping of bubbles. The implications of Jane's words hung heavy in the artificially oxygenated air. The aquatic Annihilator, the symbol of Glar military might, the terror of the outer systems, was a giant, ridiculously elaborate toy. Jane continued, her tone shifting from playful to something approaching pity. You guys, she said, shaking, her head sadly, you were the only ones who used it for war. She reached out and popped a bubble with her finger, a faint plink echoing in the stunned silence. Seriously? Bubbles? The ultimate weapon? The silence stretched, thick and heavy, punctuated only by the gentle, almost mocking pop of the bubbles. Commander Tarla stared at the control panel, then at the bubbles, then back at Jane, her gills fluttering in a way that indicated severe, cognitive distress. A lifetime of rigid protocol, of unwavering belief in the Glar's superiority and military might, was crumbling before her very eyes, dissolved by bubbles. The other Glar officers remained motionless, their faces unreadable, behind their helmets. It was as if their programming was buffering, unsure how to process this unprecedented reality. The aquatic Annihilator, the pinnacle of their technological prowess, the tool that was supposed to secure their dominance over the galaxy, was nothing more than a child's plaything. Tarla slowly turned back to Jane, a flicker of something akin to understanding, or perhaps just the very early stages of horror, dawning in her multifaceted eyes. But the schematics, the energy readings, everything indicated annihilation. Jane shrugged again, that infuriatingly casual gesture that seemed to undermine everything the Glar held sacred. Schematics can be misinterpreted. Energy. Readings depend on what you're measuring, and frankly, she added, your threat assessment protocols could use a serious overhaul. I mean, who gets scared of bubbles? The implications of Jane's revelation began to ripple through the Glar command structure. One by one, officers began to question their assumptions, their training, their very purpose. The mighty Glar collective, built on unwavering discipline and the promise of superior weaponry, had been outsmarted, not by a superior force but by a simple misunderstanding and a human's bizarre sense of humor. Commander Tarla continued to grapple with the implications of Jane's actions. She wondered if their species could recover from such shame. A question began to burn inside her. What else have we gotten wrong? The military strength of the Glar collective had become a joke that was heard across the universe. Years later, Glargan 7 saw many changes. While the military still existed, there were an increasing number of recreational areas for the civilian population. The one place always filled with life and laughter was the new Bubble Park. Children of all ages would fill the park, laughing, and playing as a multitude of bubbles floated and popped all around. And Jane? She found a new calling. She began improving other Glar technologies. The laser cannons now shot edible glitter, the warships became floating concert halls, and the surveillance drones were repurposed to deliver pizza. The galaxy had never been so confused, or so entertained. It might not have been a war she won, but the peace? Oh, that was all hers.